Everybody always says that WWE has lost its edge since turning PG, but when you actually think about it, the rating isn't even the problem. I mean, for starters, the organization's 1980s boom was as vanilla and family-friendly as Adam Wilborn's DMs, and some of the finest matches in the mid-90s thrived despite big restrictions on the levels of violence. And I mean, whisper this, but Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon put on one of the best ladder matches of all time without ever actually hitting each other with the thing. Now, yes, the Attitude Era featured countless line-crossing antics, most of which were absolutely brilliant, but they still needed strong wrestling fundamentals to bring them together. You know, good characters, good booking, good matches, all the greatest hits. In the time since, though, lots has changed, not least of all, how talent are allowed to speak to one another on screen. The swears became rare and thus powerful all over again, especially when they're said by accident. My name is Adam Cleary, and these are 10 WWE swearing outbursts that got past the censors. Number 10, Bret Hart, Monday Night Raw, March 1997. Bret Hart is responsible for many things in ye olde WWF, something resembling a post-Hogan in-ring style, some of the best feuds of all time, and a string of classic matches. He's also responsible for the live broadcast tape delay that still even exists now. All thanks to how much he swore on one episode of Monday Night Raw. Just before the most important match in WWE history against the Rattlesnake at WrestleMania 13, Shut Up It Is, Bret Hart completely snapped. I mean, it was all a work, of course, and imminently foreshadowed the double turn that would transform the industry forever, but it was nonetheless as shocking. I mean, it's probably better to watch it than me to transcribe it, but Bret's liberal use of goddamn, bullshit, and even ass was a sight to behold. Plus, you know, following Brian Pillman's shootout F-bomb the prior October, this all earned Vince McMahon a network executive roasting he was more than happy to take. And there was more to come that very night. Number 9, Psycho Sid, Monday Night Raw, March 1997. After Bret Hart turned the air blue with a legendarily vulgar rant towards Steve Austin, Vince McMahon, and the entire organization, WWE champion Psycho Sid was only too happy to breathe in the fumes as he returned to ringside to recommence hostilities with the Hitman. Long before he told Scott Hall and Kevin Nash that he had half the brain they do, the iconic imbecile wailed similar silliness in Bret's direction. Hart professed that everybody knew he was being screwed, but Sid disagreed. "I don't know, crybaby," emerged from the master and the ruler of the world as he himself emerged for the show-closing conflict. Now, thanks to overscripting and a noticeable lack of instinct, 2019's main roster is full of performers who sound completely idiotic on an almost weekly basis. So, at least in Sid's case, we can give him credit for coming up with the dialogue all by himself. Number 8, Vader, Over the Edge 1998. Vader's tank-like build hadn't impeded him at any point in his illustrious career before Vince McMahon tired of the persona and just decided he was fat. Out of nowhere, his girth was suddenly his undoing, as was his rather unsavory language. Following a daft mask versus mask match between the Mastodon and Kane at Over the Edge 1998, Vader threw a self-pitying tantrum in the aftermath. "I ain't nothing but a big piece of shit, a big fat piece of shit." It was nothing more than a senseless character assassination and mirrored Jim Ross's own sly digs towards him, Mark Henry, and others in his own Ross Reports columns. Unlike Mark Henry, though, it marked the beginning of the end for Vader in the company. After swallowing the traditional On the Way Out losses, Vader returned to Japan in October that year to rebuild what was left of his aura. Number 7, Hardcore Holly, WrestleMania 2000. Ah yes, here we are, a vintage slice of banter from WWE's locker room patrolman shortly after winning the Hardcore title in a badly botched WrestleMania match. Hardcore Holly because, of course, Hardcore Holly decided to spend the last few seconds of a backstage interview with Michael Cole attempting to melt the young announcer's frosted tips. Resplendent in double denim, and yes, I do mean that, Holly looked in no mood for the fluff chat on a post-pay-per-view WrestleMania wind-down. And in a comment that Jim Ross had to immediately apologise for on account of it being classless, Holly went all in with the following. "How about I start with you? I could start with you right here, right now. It doesn't matter to me, Michael Cole, because I will break your ass in half, you little shithead." And freeze it. Michael Cole's face here should be put in a museum as a shrine to what absolutely dropping your arse on live TV really looks like. Number 6, Shaniqua, SmackDown, December 2003. Linda Shaniqua Miles' dominatrix persona dished out a beating to her Basham Brothers submissives before they even locked up with Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hotty. After really struggling to gain a foothold in the division despite somehow taking the titles hostage earlier that year, it had become an expectation for the act to fail. What wasn't expected though was for Shaniqua's real-life frustrations with the failing act emerging in her post-match putdown. Hilariously, Scotty 2 Hotty didn't escape her fire either. Verbally eviscerating the duo loudly enough for the cameras to pick up every single word, she couldn't fathom the nature of the defeat. You fucking lose to Scotty 2 Hotty. You don't deserve to be something reserved something by Shaniqua. It wasn't too clear what the end goal of her screaming fit was, but still she did it anyway. Number 5, The Rock. Monday Night Raw, August 2001. 1998 to 2001 was a period unlike any other for the pro wrestling promo. Loose scripting ensured a certain continuity, but characters were still allowed to experiment just enough that their voices were heard beyond the dialogue. Perhaps more importantly than that though, the catchphrase was king. From selling matches to selling shirts, the closing moments of every promo denoted a clear winner of the verbal joust and inevitably put the heel or babyface over as the star of the angle. It's why The Great One and Y2J were entrusted with enough rope that they accidentally hung themselves with it in 2001. Dishing out a little ditty at Stephanie McMahon's expense, the pair riffed on the billion-dollar princess and her family with a lyric that concluded with The Rock referring to Shane McMahon as a silver spoon motherfucker. However, the bit required Stephanie to cut The Rock off before he dropped the almighty F-bomb. However, she missed her cue somewhat and select feeds went out with the curse word left untouched. Sterling work there, given that she'd recently been appointed head of creative. Nice big slow clap for you there, Steph. There you go. Number 4, Scott Steiner, Survivor Series 2002. Yes, in late that year, Big Papa Pump, actual name, became the latest former WCW star to navigate his way to WWE. Steiner's tenure would ultimately prove a major flop because the Big Bad Booty Daddy, also actual name, hid that he was suffering from drop foot syndrome, a condition that impeded his work significantly until he was able to make a partial recovery 6 months into the run. However, the dreadful maiden matches soured Vince McMahon and the creative team on the gimmick, resulting in Steiner suffering creative neglect for his final months on the roster. The fire had long gone out by the time of his release, and truthfully, it never burned as bright as it did on his Survivor Series debut. He blew the goddamn roof off of Madison Square Garden with an attack on legit dorks Matt Hardy and Chris Nowinski. To do that though, he had to psych himself into such a Freakzilla, also actual name, frenzy that his third word was the naughtiest of them all. "Give me a fucking mic," he screamed, and he got one too. Number 3, Eddie Guerrero, SummerSlam 2005. Despite Eddie's very well documented struggles, he lived the closing months of his life in a period of relative harmony and happiness. I'm not gonna get into all of it now, but long story short, he was clean and he'd finally reunited with members of his family. Such harmony wasn't reflected in one of the few occasions Eddie and Vicky linked up together on screen though. She was just his disapproving wife during his final summer spent terrorizing Rey Mysterio over the disputed parentage of Ray Ray's son Dominic. Their SummerSlam ladder match was to be the final chapter of the feud, where a key spot was supposed to see Vicky rush the ring and tip Eddie from the ladder as he attempted to grab Dominic's custody papers. She badly missed her cue, forcing Ray and Eddie to improvise a struggle. As Guerrero fell to the mat, he completely neglected to sell, instead screaming, "Where the f*** was Vicky?" as ringside referees looked on as confused as the wrestlers themselves. Number 2, Vince McMahon, Raw, February 2016. Vince McMahon is a genius. I know we call him all sorts on this channel, but he is. If you need proof, then look no further than the opening segment of Monday Night Raw on the 22nd of February 2016. The injury bug had bit WrestleMania hard, and there was an alarmingly small number of major matches lined up for a card he needed to fill a 100,000-seater AT&T Stadium. His real-life solution was one that his character had to pretend to despise. A returning Shane McMahon skipped out onto the stage, having irritatingly not lost a single step, jiggling all the way down to the ring and to an eventual show of shows clash with The Undertaker. The contest proved an unlikely ticket seller, but Shane's return to screens would harness more bad than good over the long term. Vince, the genius that he is, knew it and captured the future frustrations of his audience with one jaw-dropping decree. "I have one last opportunity to give you a beating." He hasn't taken said opportunity yet, but we do live in hope. Number 1, Bayley, Raw, June 2018. Now, okay, yes, so her Monday Night Raw outburst may have resulted in the god-awful therapy angle, but her long overdue snapping on Sasha Banks did at least give us a rare 4-letter salvo as part of her assault. Returning the favor to Banks from all the time Sasha had screamed in her face that she was the better woman, Bayley retorted with, "You ain't sh**." The crowd heard it, the audience heard it, everybody went wild for it. Presumably instructed to drop the S-bomb to get across the uncharacteristic aggression of her act, Bayley's swear was bleeped on the live USA feed. However, it was completely missed on the Spanish commentary version of the broadcast. Bayley's blue lingo went to air unvarnished and was subsequently shared across Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pornhub, you name it, you could watch it. And in fairness, it was absolutely brilliant. So there you go, those are 10 WWE swearing outbursts that got past the fucking censors. Let us know what you made of it in the fucking comments below, and of course don't fucking forget to like, share, and fucking subscribe. In the fucking meantime though, thank you so fucking much for watching. I have, of course, been Adam fucking Cleary, and I'll see you soon. Bye.